friends. Welcome back to Psychology Noir with Dr. Lund. Well, folks, the trial is over, and sort of looking back on it, the parallels this trial had with noir, film noir, are pretty staggering and interesting. This trial probably would be considered by any film goer, filmmaker, producer, director as basically a blockbuster. It was publicized, so many millions of people watched this, spent 6 weeks of their time watching everything, watching reviews, social media, regular media. Everybody was in on this particular trial. And so what we got to see was testimony from our co-stars, Amber and Johnny, overt and covert audio recordings, just a parade of witnesses, which to me are like the supporting cast of this particular movie. Combating legal teams. This trial easily writes its own noir story that would be included in any classic noir, which is fatalism, cynicism, moral ambiguity, and those are the things that define a noir genre. And we had them all. As I said, this was a blockbuster. Interesting, like every good noir, it had elements of the loss of public honor, the loss of personal integrity, the lack of heroic action and intent, the loss of psychic stability that disintegrated really into diagnosed psychopathy. We had all of that included in this trial. I mean, this trial vividly showed the destructive energy that built up over days and weeks and testimony to an epic degradation of a doomed relationship. And so we saw the fight, the moral fight between the femme fatale, who is one of the co-stars, and what I would consider more of the weak-willed person with a conscience. And the dueling between those two entities is really something that you find in many of the noirs. Movies like Crisscross, Angel Face, White Heat. Many of the noirs of the 40s and 50s really tout these particular entities. The femme fatale, true to form, somebody who uses their sexual allure to coerce and manipulate men with the added touch of toughness and swings that go from being terrified of being alone to the attitude of, I don't need anyone ever to do anything for me, but all out to do harm to her partner, which has been the traditional role of the femme fatale in film noir. And so that played out over and over again with the testimonies, the lack of credibility, the pictures, the audio. And of course, as I said, the testimony on the stand really hit home of how much greed this person had and no loyalty. So whoever offered her what she wanted, that's where her loyalty was, but it wasn't sustaining. That shifted. It sounded like it shifted in the marriage. Can't be sure, but just from the information that we gleaned from witnesses and testimony. Some of the terms and the descriptors for femme fatales, especially back in the era when film noir began again, 30s, but mainly 40s and 50s, were the vamp, the temptress, the seductress, and that more became the gold digger, the schemer, the person who thinks they're entitled to everything. Basically, the spoiled brat. And we actually heard a few of those terms used during the trial by some of the folks that did testimony or from emails or texts. Very interesting. Again, true to form to what that character depicts. And so we were watching it in real life. And I think some of that, again, is what hooked many of us in the audience, especially some of us who have the film noir love, is this is very familiar. But I'm living through vicariously what these two people have been through, not in a movie, but in real life. Very scary. Some of the old femme fatales of the 40s and 50s. Some may be familiar, some not so, which would be worth definitely looking some of these folks up. Gloria Graham, Elizabeth Scott, Lana Turner, Joan Crawford, Anne Sheridan. One of my favorites that is unexpected is Yvonne DiCarlo. And some of you may know Yvonne DiCarlo from Lily Munster. She was Herman's wife, but she actually was in Crisscross, which was one of the higher ranked film noir of its day. And again, a femme fatale very much like our femme fatale in the Depp Heard trial. Interesting, there is a scene in that particular film that struck me where after she devastates her co-star, the weak-willed man who falls into her trap, and she betrays him, and she's packing to leave, and she's running around the room saying, everybody gets hurt. It's not my fault people get hurt. They just get hurt. I can't be responsible for everybody getting hurt. And the man sitting very quietly in the corner, Burt Lancaster, his line basically says, you can't be like me. You're right, you weren't born like me. I wasn't in it for the money. I was in it for you. Where'd we hear that? I swear that was on one of the audio tapes. Maybe not word for word, but pretty darn close. Again, the tragedy of film noir and relationships. Crisscross movie from 1949, in case you're interested in looking up. It's a very good one. Then we look at the other co-star in this particular sad but true noir relationship. Sort of the drug and alcohol weak-will person that has a conscience but gets ensnared with the femme fatale and changes for the worst of trying to make that person happy and trying to give them what they want. And that may be going against what they feel is appropriate or morally right. And we see Johnny Depp in that character role perfectly. Some of the old film noir male parts were played by Robert Mitchum, Robert Ryan, Sterling Hayden, Burt Lancaster, Dan Duryea, Lawrence Tierney. These are the folks who played into the hands of the femme fatale, were betrayed, and I can't help but use this line, and they lost nothing short of everything. Boy, talk about the parallels. Relationship-wise, in a film noir, and you look at the Depp Heard relationship, it's fatalistic. it's doomed. It has intense highs and intense lows. It has betrayals. And both at some period of time come to the point of being very desperate characters in that relationship. It almost feels like you're watching a fever dream. Have you ever been so sick you've had a fever and you have weird kind of dreams? That's what watching this trial on some level was like at times. But interestingly, in these film noirs, as in this real life noir, the person that the audience roots for is the one that the character and the person intersects and becomes a relatable individual. In our case, in the trial, that obviously became Johnny Depp. Where on the other side, Amber Heard was not relatable. Her character and her person never intersected from people's perspective. Not to say we can't second guess or know for a fact who she is, what she's like, but what we saw and our perceptions that seem to be heavily weighted on the more negative side for her presentation, that's not who folks were rooting for. I mean, they wanted to see this woman really face, in some way or another, some consequences for her absolutely erratic and evil-like behavior. So imagine this. Could you imagine if the court scenes from real life were in black and white? And in the background, there was this haunting music that you would have in a film noir. And during the audio, listening to Amber's maniacal laugh, can you imagine the string section in Psycho when Norman Bates is in the shower scene stabbing his victim? I won't imitate it, but you can almost see how this real life noir can fold into something that's so movie-like. And if there was a movie, if this was a movie, I would think this, okay, I watched some of it, it's interesting, but it's over the top. There is too much. This is cheesy, it's getting overwhelming. It's like, okay, this is not real. Yeah, apparently it was very real. And so I think what people came away from is they saw or believed they saw the persona of Johnny Depp, and what they heard and saw from Amber was more of a Femme fatale manifesto that was full of rants and blames, and it was never relatable to many of the folks who watched the trial and couldn't relate to, again, the bad acting, the fact that you didn't see a person up there, but you saw a caricature, and the difference between both presentations, as real as it is, not to accuse anybody of pretending, but the two different presentations, what I look at is my love for film noir. And when I find a character that's believable or not, that's the element I look for, is when I can see that character and that individual merge. And there is something there that's redeemable, realized, and human. And so even though I know Johnny had his own line about, "This is the last time you will look into my eyes," not a bad line. But I kind of like another line from one of the film noirs of the 40s, is, "Don't ever change, darling. I don't think I'd like you with a heart. Thank you for joining me, friends, on this parallel and looking at this marriage that truly sounded like a marriage from hell. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you for coming. Bye.